S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, is meeting with his US counterpart, Antony Blinken. The bilateral meeting has just begun at Rashtrapati Bhavan. That's the latest that we are gathering. This meeting, of course, taking place on the sidelines of the G20 meeting of foreign ministers, the precursor to the big G20 summit later on in the year. Abhishek, my colleague, reporting live from the Rashtrapati Bhavan Convention Centre, getting us the very latest. Now, Antony Blinken this morning, Abhishek, spoke about how he came with two imperatives for G20. One was to ensure that our shared goals were advanced, and the second was to ensure that US and India together were working for the needs of the world. Antony Blinken came out and said that we've succeeded at both. That really sets the tone for the bilateral meeting between him and S. Jaishankar.
So clearly, this meeting was one of the most awaited meeting between the two sides of India and USA. We have also seen Jaishankar meeting his Russian counterpart Lavrov yesterday. So clearly, a thing that is very much in play, that India is clearly a bridge between the two sides, that is Western Bloc, EU and NATO, led by USA and Russia. On the other side, in the context of Ukraine and Russia war, in fact, also Chinese Foreign Minister King Yang is very much in Delhi, and we are expecting a bilateral with him also of External Affairs Minister Jaishankar. So India is having a very challenging time at the same time, and a very influential position is India is currently at, where it can try to bridge the divide between the two sides, so that the other issues of the global importance, which Prime Minister Modi has also underlined during his morning address to the Foreign Ministers Meeting, that the issues like climate change, issues like pandemic, issues like financial architecture of the world, these are also important issues where the multilateral platforms have failed, and institutions like G20, which actually has about more than 60% of global population and 85% of trade happening among the members, has a huge responsibility to be united, to fight and to address and to look into other challenges also.
Absolutely. Do stay on with me. Political editor Maria Shakil also reporting live from the Rashtrapati Bhavan Convention Centre, where all of these G20 events are taking place. And Maria, we're given to understand that the first bilateral between India and another country of today has just begun. Antony Blinken meeting with S. Jaishankar.
Yes, that's right. It is with Secretary of State Antony Blinken. That first bilateral is happening, and in fact that news is being brought to us by Siddhant. So the entire event, Siddhant, is almost running an hour and a half late.
That's right, Maria. Entire event is running almost an hour late, and in fact just a few minutes back we've got this confirmation that both Antony Blinken, Secretary of State, and External Affairs Minister Jaishankar are right now taking bilateral meetings, and in fact there are multiple issues to be discussed, Maria, in terms of geopolitics, especially I'm sure Russia-Ukraine war will be discussed, and in fact India's position on the same. At the same time, Mr. Blinken has been friends with India, and in fact friends with Mr. Jaishankar.
Yes, that personal equation.
That personal equation is also between the two leaders. So Mr. Blinken is in fact one foreign minister who has arrived last in the national capital. He arrived late night, and in fact he also couldn't attend the dinner. So perhaps this is the first meeting that he's having with Mr. Jaishankar.
And he is expected to hold a press conference, which is again being delayed by an hour. So roughly around 7:30 is when we can.
That's right. And also, Maria, what is a major concern for we as a journalist is that there are a lot of press conferences, engagements, dialogue going to get clash late in the evening, maybe 5 or 6, because this session is already running late. Then there is a Raisina dialogue. Then there is a press conference of Russian foreign minister. Then there is Antony Blinken's press conference. So a lot more is lined up on the cards, and I don't know how
and it's all about in the evening. Yeah. And with the results coming in of the 3 states, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also expected to go to the BJP headquarters at the ITO. But the big takeaway certainly is that will there be a joint statement, or will it go the Bengaluru way, where the finance ministers meeting could not really arrive at a consensus because there were disagreements, particularly in the context of how the Russia-Ukraine war should be worded. India, remember, has done a tightrope walk, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi's own words had been that this is not the era of war. But if you look at Prime Minister's statement this morning, his opening address to the G20 foreign ministers, the message was about looking at points where where issues can be resolved rather than issues which cannot be resolved. So looking at points which are largely the convergence points, or where some kind of consensus can be arrived at. So will India be able to emerge as that consensus builder? Will there be a joint statement? Is something that we'll have to wait and see. And roughly around 5:30 is when we'll know about it, after all the sessions end, and Foreign Affairs Minister S Jaishankar addresses a press conference.
Right, so all of those details will come out later in the evening when these slew of press conferences and media briefings that take place. But this is not the only bilateral that is being watched keenly by experts, not just here in the country, but outside as well. The bilateral that's going to happen next, Maria, is also something which is extremely important, and that's the one with the Chinese foreign minister. Given the time that time and again, S. Jaishankar has come out and said that ties are not normal between India and China.
Yes, but it also shows India's deft diplomacy and Dr. S. Jaishankar's own maneuvering abilities when they actually managed to get the Chinese foreign minister on the talking table. And hence it will be a bilateral which will be watched out not just by India and China, but by the world at large. But you know, Poonam, that is also coming in the backdrop of that crucial working groups meeting which happened on 22nd of February 2023, which was the first in-person meeting in Beijing, in which the issues of disengagement along the line of actual control was taken up. So I think, again, India and China coming on the talking table, realizing fully well that in the post-COVID scenario, you know, the situation has changed. The economic challenges are far graver. And as far as, you know, energy challenge or other concerns are far big than perhaps, you know, issues of sovereignty. India, though, has reiterated its position, and Prime Minister has done it himself, that when it is about protecting India's sovereignty and territorial integrity, that remains priority. But for these G20 nations, as Abhishek was pointing out, this is the biggest grouping. Economics is the big concern, and particularly trying to ensure that India emerges as the voice of the global South, as Prime Minister has put it as. But yes, whether the stage will be set for the big summit that takes place in September of the leaders, which is the head of states, for which perhaps the stage will be laid and the ground will be set through a joint statement, if that is issued towards the end of the day.
Right, so there are several key issues that are going to come up, and this is extremely important, Abhishek. Like Maria was also pointing out, India is going to be the link, the crucial one that links the global South to the West. There has been some sort of division all through these decades, but now these developing economies, the emerging economies, connecting them to the rest of the world, to the West especially, is something that India is going to take the lead in.
Of course, and we have seen in that India is raising voice at United Nations Security Council, United Nations other lateral organizations, where it has clearly said that in the last 8 decades of world, there has been multiple changes in terms of economic dynamics, strategic dynamics, defense architecture. So with the changing realities of the world, that should also reflect at one of the institutions which is, look forwarded in a way that it will have a panacea, a solution for every problem that the world is facing, be it a human, man-made problem like wars, or the natural calamities like earthquakes, disasters, or a pandemic like COVID-19, which we have just witnessed. And also whether this will be an equitable way to distribute its resources to other part of the world, because recently India had conducted this global Summit of South, where Prime Minister had invited almost 100 countries to participate, and which the information and the discussion that happened, that what are the priorities, challenges, concerns of global South, will also feed into the discussion that is happening today. Yes. And this will feed into the discussion that will happen late in September, where the world leaders will be in Delhi to have this summit level talks of G20.